Hey Wohos, welcome to the show. This is a bonus episode featuring 5 groups of guests who were very kind to come on and share their Fave 5 watches from 2022 with us. I hope you'll forgive the somewhat awkward transitions in a couple places and me being a general fangirl in a couple of cases. But in any case, I'm very glad that you're here. I hope you enjoy the show. Get in touch and let us know what your fave watches were from this past year. And you can look forward to the whole squad getting together in about a week to give our fave 6 picks. So hope you come back for that one. Thanks for being here. We love you. And don't go into the basement. Wallace! Welcome to the World of Horror podcast and to our version of the end-of-year wrap-up show. This year, we are expanding our circle to include some of our pod friends. With us today, we are very pleased to welcome Eric Winick and Bradford Louryk from the Scare You podcast. Thanks so much for joining us. I have been listening to your podcast for a few months now, but for those lucky wohos who have your whole catalog in front of them, can you say a little bit about your podcast?
The idea behind Scare You, which is short for Scare University, is that Bradford has a long-running love affair with horror films. I mean, he's been seeing them since he was maybe 2 or 3. I avoided them most of my life. I didn't want to see them. I didn't want to be scared. If I did see one, it was by accident. Okay. And Bradford and I met 20 years ago. We both worked for a theater company. Yeah, we worked for a theater company in New York City, and he would regale me with stories of the horror film that he had just seen the day or night before. And I found myself fascinated, not only with Bradford's love of the genre, but also I wanted to know more about the films. And so I would press him for stories, and he would tell me about Hostel and this or that and this disgusting thing and this horrible thing. And I found myself strangely interested in wanting to know more. And so I would tell me more about this eyeball that gets plucked out of this person's head, please, more. And I just got to know that Bradford as somebody who knew everything there was to know about horror films.
But you were also dipping your toe in of your own volition around that same time, and you saw
very
things
slowly.
Like Audition, I mean, we talked about that a long, long time ago.
We did, but it was very tentative, you know what I mean? And it was not at all your immersion. So I think it was 2021 during the pandemic, we were both kind of, stuck inside, and we started chatting about the idea of starting a podcast in which Bradford was the professor, for want of a better phrase, and I would be the student. And so we started a podcast. We knew there was going to be a school theme. We called it 21 Jump Scare, after the TV show with Johnny Depp in the
80s, yes,
and the movie with Jonah Hill and Channing Tatum, and we did it for I think 13 episodes, and we had a lot of fun. And then we decided to up our game, and this year we decided we're going to have guests. We're going to have much more it's going to be much more segmented. We're going to change the name since we didn't have a sort of a really firm brand. We're like, all right, if we're going to do it, let's do it now. And we changed it to Scare You. And we're about 8 episodes in, I think, to season 2 and having a blast.
Exactly 8 episodes into season 2. Having a blast with our guests whom we've been inviting on for the first time.
Yeah.
And I think it's yielded some really exciting conversation.
And the guests come from
with Eric and with the great sort of guests,
Yeah, who come from all different areas of life. I mean, we've had authors, we've had filmmakers, we've had podcasters, we've had film directors, and it's just different every time. Everybody has a different take on horror, and it's just fascinating to to hear what each one of them has to say. I mean, Bradford basically picks the films, you know, and then we went to them and we sort of offered them a few, and they would pick one, and so now we've got a whole season lined up, and we're kind of halfway through it, I would say, right now.
Yeah.
So we're glad to hear that you enjoy it.
Oh, I love it. And I love the format. It is very segmented, and the segments make sense. The guests are amazing. I was telling Bradford that I really loved the Inside episode, but the Session 9 episode that you did made me actually like that film, you know, as a result of your conversation.
No way.
I did something wrong.
I didn't love it, Eric. I just...
Okay. All right.
It made me appreciate it.
Okay, good. Good to hear. Well, thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's really great to be here.
It's our pleasure. So, Bradford, would you like to go first tonight and give us your Fave 5 watches from 2022?
Sure. Well, you know, I mean, I think that your guidelines for how to pick these are so free and flexible that it makes it even harder to pick, you know, because of course they just have to be movies that I watched in 2022, right?
Yes, they do. We do limit it to this 1 year, but that's really the only limit.
So now wait a minute. Do they have to be things that were made this year, or just
no?
Things?
Absolutely
right.
not.
Okay. So things I experienced in 2022.
Yes.
You know, I'm really tempted to list off some things that I've curated for Eric to watch for Scare You, like April Fool's Day, which is one of my favorite, if not my favorite, horror films of all time. And doing the episode with Eric allowed me to get back into that film, which I kind of describe as always kind of feeling like coming home every time I watch it. And then, of course, we also covered House of the Devil, which I think is so expertly made and so terrifying, and stylish to boot, you know? So again, that's another one that I was really excited to revisit in sharing it with Eric, who was, of course, seeing it for the first time, as with all of the movies on Scare You. And then, in fact, just last night, we recorded an episode about the Spanish movie Witching and Bitching by Alex de la Iglesia, which is... Have you guys seen it?
No, but
never heard of it.
Did he do Dia del Bestia?
Yes, he did. He also did The Last Circus. He's done a bunch of great films, and I mean, talk about stylish. But yeah, he's a great, you know, Spanish filmmaker. And Witching and Bitching is a great, such a good-looking movie, and really fun to watch. And we covered it last night with my friend Cintra Wilson from San Francisco. But I feel like it's not exactly fair for me to do that. So I have my real list of scary movies that I watched that were made in 2022. And I guess I would start with Smile, which I thought was really well crafted, had a lot of great scares. You know, I tend to feel like I'm very immune to the jump scare, you know, but I thought that Smile really did it well and got me a couple of times. I would say Barbarian for the most part, which I thought was really well cast and really well acted, creepy in the way that it continued to unfold for the entire thing. And also, it happens to star my buddy Justin Long. So I was really excited to see Justin return to the horror genre in Barbarian.
I loved him in that movie. I thought like that was like the performance of a lifetime. Like I feel like anybody else playing that character, I would have thought it was insufferable, but I only wanted more of him.
You know, Mac, I got to say, I think that's a really great point. You know, Justin has always been a really strong actor. And I think that whether he's doing comedy or horror, I mean, I would say that Justin is not exactly known for his dramatic acting at this point. But I think he brings great chops and great commitment to every role that he, you know, takes on.
Agreed.
And then I would also say that I really enjoyed The Munsters, Rob Zombie's reboot of the classics, black and white TV sitcom. I'm usually very, very critical of performances. I always want everything to be acted as well as it possibly can be. And I would say that like Sherry Moon Zombie as an actor is somebody whose like growth I really appreciate, and I think that she's really, no, I'm being totally serious, and I hope generous of spirit when I say that, because, when you see her in something like House of a Thousand Corpses versus The Lords of Salem, you can tell that she has grown tremendously, as an actor. And I think that The Munsters, which is such a loving tribute to a classic sort of horror comedy sitcom that I think is sort of all in our vocabulary, it just like gave me all the right sort of nostalgic, scary, funny feels. I think the new HELLRAISER was especially well done, especially from a design point of view. I think the way that the team behind the 2022 installment developed and sort of modernized the Cenobite design was really sterling. And then I would also say the movie Nope by Jordan Peele, which I thought was pretty fantastic, worked on a lot of metaphoric levels. I think sort of replaying it in my head after I saw it, it continued to kind of develop and sort of get its roots in. But again, I thought that was something that was really well made, really well performed, and yielded a pretty excellent viewing experience for me. And then I have a couple of honorable mention that I'm going to throw out, and you guys can cut these or whatever for time. But I would say My Best Friend's Exorcism by my buddy of like 20 years, Grady Hendrix. I enjoyed it a lot. I think his writing is always charming and clever and funny and scary. I would say Master, which was shot at my college, Vassar College. So it was really great to see it on screen in a movie in my favorite genre. Glorious with Ryan Quanten and J.K. Simmons about the haunted stall of a roadside bathroom with two strong performances by some really great actors. And also a shout out to Symphony, a Clubhouse horror anthology, which features segments directed by our friends and Scare You guests, Jason Ragusta and Kimberly Elizabeth. And I was verbose as I want to be, and I kind of bent the rules, but that's my list of favorites of 2022.
Great
Great
list.
work. It was a great
Thank you.
list.
Thank you.
A beautiful
Rules
list.
are meant to be bent. I think
Especially
wise
on our
men once said
podcast.
that.
Oh,
Continue.
okay. Mac, have you seen the movies Smile and Hellraiser?
Well, so now this conversation is going to make me return to Smile, because I did start it up and then closed it, only because there was a few things that I was like, I could sense coming that I just wasn't in the headspace to view at that time.
Oh, wow.
Like I was like, something's going to happen with this present and the kids. I just don't want to see it right now. So I haven't finished it, but I will now, and have not seen the new Hellraiser. But I'm Hellraiser stan and a Clive Barker stan, so I do need to watch it.
Then I would be especially curious to hear your thoughts on the new one.
I'm gonna watch it and formulate.
All right.
And share.
Yeah, and no, I'll keep it to myself.
Oh, super list, Bradford. Eric, would you like to share your list?
Sure. So my list of 5, the oldest on this list is from 2009, and the most recent is from this year. But I'm not going to go in any particular order, so I'm just going to give you my 5. The first on my list is a movie called Train to Busan, and it is a South Korean action horror film directed by Yeon Sang-ho. And it's a film that is really kind of about the zombie apocalypse, but is set entirely on a train, almost entirely on a train. And at its heart is a very touching and real relationship between a father and a daughter. And I don't want to spoil the film, but it goes to an unexpectedly emotional place by the end of the film. And it really moved me in a way that horror films generally do not. And I'd heard about this film, but I hadn't seen it until this year. So that's my first. So my second film is called The Sadness. It is a Taiwanese horror film, body horror film, I would say. It's directed by a Canadian man, Rob Jabaz. The effects in this film are astoundingly disgusting. I cannot. I just was astounded by the sheer audacity of this film, and also how disgusting it was, and the fact that I've clearly gotten to a point in my life where I'm okay with watching shit like this. I could not believe the bloodletting and the body horror in this film, and and the story was actually pretty good. Like you could follow it, and it has a pretty bleak ending, but at the same time, I was thoroughly entertained by it. So that's The Sadness.
I hated myself after watching that movie.
There's some scenes that stick with me that, like, just last week I was thinking of a few in particular, and I was like, wow, your words, the audacity, that's perfect. I think maybe that's how I felt too, was like, whoa.
Yeah, but I mean, you have to like shake your fist when you say it. You know what I mean? It's like they were audacious in those choices in ways that I think, and I have so little threshold, that pushed the envelope really far.
Same.
Well, then Bradford, you're really not going to like my next choice, because it's DASHCAM. And I really loved Host, which was kind of the first and most authentic pandemic horror film made by Rob Savage. And it was shot almost entirely on, it looks like Zoom. It's like a Zoom-like platform, in which there's a lot of scares and just scary stuff going on. It's like an hour long. Very, very quick watch. And I was curious as to what he was going to follow it up with. And it turned out that he completely upped the ante, and he has us follow this character played by a woman named Annie Hardy, who I'm told is playing a version of herself, driving in a car, live streaming her adventures. And I don't want to go too far into it, because this film has been so polarizing. There are people who just can't stand her and find her to be the most repellent human being and can't watch the film. And then there are people like me who sort of see it as an act of provocation, that he's really trying to poke us in the eye and say, I dare you to hate this film, because she's extreme right-winger, racist, homophobic, every ist out there. And she's very difficult to spend time with. But the trials that she goes through in this film are not to be believed. And it is truly frightening, some of the things that go on. And it's all accompanied by this sort of stream of commentary running down the side of the screen. And I had to watch it twice in one weekend, because I'm like, that's the craziest shit I've seen in a long time. So DASHCAM is my number 3. And Bradford, I know you didn't like this film, but I was amazed that he went there.
It's not my list, is it, Aaron?
No, it's not. Number 4 for me is a film. Number 4 for me is a film called Piggy. It is a Spanish horror film directed by Carlota Pereda and it features a brilliant young actress named Laura Galan, and it's about a shall we say, full-figured young woman who is teased mercilessly by her friends or her acquaintances in Spain, where it takes place. And she forms a very unlikely alliance with a man who is no stranger to, shall we say, picking people off. And it's kind of like a love story, and it's a slasher film, and it's a story about one sort of restoring oneself of worth and self-esteem. And it's a very, very touching film, and I was really taken by surprise. Maybe it's because I had COVID when I watched it, but nonetheless, I fell victim to its many charms. So that's Piggy. And then the fifth and final film on my list is one that Bradford had me watch for Scare You. And it may be my favorite of the films that we've watched so far this season. And it's a film called The House of the Devil, directed by Ty West, who, of course, this year came through with two films, X and Pearl, both of which I enjoyed very much, but I liked The House of the Devil more. And it is a truly unsettling and yet very odd film about a woman who answers an ad to babysit for this older couple, played by Tom Noonan and Mary Warrenoff. And it seems like a very
so good.
So good.
Both of them, they're so good.
It's very, very strange film that seems to be about not much of anything for the most part, until it suddenly is. And some very, very strange and disturbing things happen, and it ends on a note of an utterly chilling note, which I will, of course, not spoil here. But yeah, I mean that's my five. House of the Devil
Eric,
was
to be fair, The House of the Devil also features a cameo appearance by D. Wallace Stone. Wallace.
Oh, I mean, I didn't actually give the whole cast, but I mean, it's Jocelyn Donahue, Greta Gerwig, Tom Noonan, Mary Warrenoff, D. Wallace,
and D. Wallace Stone. Wallace.
Yes.
Wallace.
Yeah. Okay. I said it wrong. I apologize.
Stone Wallace.
Okay. So yeah, there you go. That's my five.
Great. This is such a super list, Eric.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Well, let's get into it. Stefan, what were your fave 5 watches from 2022?
I know you said it could be any year, but I've tried to stick to actually stuff from this year. There's been like a ton of stuff that I've been excited to like either revisit or rewatch. But I'm going to start with my first and only television pick, and that is Severance. Did you watch this? Yeah. Oh man, I love Severance. So the pilot for this was actually, I believe it's a 2016 Bloodlist pick. So they have a specific category for unrepresented writers, and the pilot episode for this landed on that specific stream for scripts on their. Again, I think it was 2016. Might have been earlier or later. I don't know. I'm an idiot. It's hard for me to I forget dates easily. But it's created by Dan Erickson. I'm a tremendous fan. There is a lot of great off-putting wide shots of like a very creepy office space with a string bean green carpet with little cubicles, and they have like, weird old CRT computers and they're performing tasks that, we don't really understand at the beginning. We have Adam Scott, who I absolutely love. But then beyond that, we have Zach Cherry, who's great. Britt Lauer, who's fantastic in her role as well. Mainstays like John Turturro, Christopher Walken, Bob Balaban, Patricia Arquette. Everybody is just like wonderful in this. It's a show that I watched and I was like, is this made specifically for me? Did somebody like this is what we're gonna make for Stefan, just to reinvigorate his love of like film and television, because that's how I felt when I was watching it, which I think that's why I want to say that first, because it is one of the most like exciting things for me to have watched this year. Yeah. Severance.
I totally agree. Yeah, I watched it twice.
Ooh.
Really loved it. So what's your next pick, Stefan?
I do want to say I'm really excited to watch it again as well. I wanted to pick one thing that I had seen in a festival setting, and I only saw 2 movies. So I picked the one that was most exciting to me, which is Something in the Dirt. And this is the new Benson and Moorhead film that should be coming out hopefully pretty soon. And I saw this at the Toronto After Dark Film Festival, which is a place where they've typically kind of had their Toronto premieres in the past. We have Moorhead, who plays John Daniels, and Benson, who plays Levi Danube. They live in kind of like a flop apartment complex. And they notice that these quartz objects begin to levitate, and then as light refracts through them, they produce a symbol that they begin to see everywhere around them. And it's very much about like rabbit hole conspiracy theories, but they decide to start making a documentary about this. And it was just like a very, very enjoyable thing to watch. One criticism, this is nowhere near perfect, and I'm almost like hesitant to not even put it on my list. It is way too long. It could have lost a half an hour and been infinitely better for it. But overall, had a great time. I enjoyed it. This is the one festival film that I would like to actually talk about. So, new Benson and Moorhead. Let's get excited.
Are they new filmmakers?
They made The Endless, if you saw that. Resolution was their first film. And then they also made, it's called Synchronic, which is the drug film where they can go into other times based on their geographical location where they take the drug. Yeah,
I thought that one was pretty good.
Yeah, The Endless, I think, is my favorite of theirs, and Resolution. This would fall after Resolution, in between. I think Synchronic for me is like oddly enough, their weakest film. But look forward to them making a Marvel movie soon. Actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're doing that, which I don't really get excited for when they announce like a cool director is doing a Marvel film, because it's going to be like, we're going to hold their hand, and their names are literally almost inconsequential to the final film. Like I don't feel like they if you get a Marvel movie, you don't get to like, fly your flag that you've cultivated. Here's my recency bias pick. I'm going to go with Holy Spider. This is a great movie. And by that, I mean, it is deeply upsetting. It's one of the hardest, maybe that's being too aggressive. It's a hard watch though. Directed by Ali Abbas. I saw this on Thursday. Really didn't know much about it. We have Zahra Amir Ebrahimi, who plays Rahimi, a journalist sent to Mashhad in Iran to investigate a series of murders of sex workers, essentially, which have been dubbed the Spider Killings. We also have a great performance from Mehdi Bajestani, who plays Saeed. It is just like a deeply unsettling film. She is a journalist going to a place that is just horribly misogynistic. There's questions initially of the police force just not caring about solving the murders altogether, which makes it a much more interesting film than, say, like, you might initially think, oh, this is like an Iranian, a Zodiac or something to that effect. That is like very, very far away from what this movie is. It also does and I'm not giving anything away. This is, pretty much right off the bat, that you also follow the killer in this film, unlike most thrillers. And it asks a lot of its viewer to understand why the person is doing what they're doing, which might sound like a deeply problematic film. It is not. It is just very, very complicated. It deals with a lot of, how faith can fuel misogyny. It deals with just like systemic misogyny and just cultural differences that exist within Iran in general, because you might have like one specific view of like what Iran is, but it is multifaceted like most places. And I think that this movie will expand a lot of like, viewpoints, and all of it is like very, very great. I had like maybe like 2 notes through watching this movie, but everything else is just fantastic. The music's great. It's shot very, very like it almost feels like DIY to a certain extent. Like it feels like very cinema verite or something to that effect. Like it just feels real, which makes it more horrifying. And it has one of the most horrifying endings of a film I've ever seen in my entire life. Deeply upsetting and unsettling, and well worth anybody's time. That is Holy Spider. Very, very good. The director made the movie Borders that had come out a few years ago. I feel like it was produced by God, what's his name? The guy who made Let the Right One In and Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, Thomas Alfredson or something, I believe.
I think that's right.
I think he produced the director's previous film. And it had received, don't know why I didn't watch it, but it had received good reviews when it initially came out. I only bring it up because it's also probably good and worth checking out. So maybe it's a double recommendation.
Well, that does sound quite disturbing, and definitely something that I will look forward to watching.
Yeah, I have to say, 'cause it's based on like a real thing. Unlike most like true crime stuff, where it feels like you might be, it almost feels revolting to watch. Like, there's a controversy around Dahmer when it came out. A lot of people are just like nobody needs to see this. Like, why are you making this? This doesn't feel like it's like exploitative in any way. It feels like just a good movie that deals with a real subject and handles it with the grace that it deserves, I suppose. This movie is just like, I go in knowing absolutely nothing and checking it out, knowing that you're going to be put through the ringer, and definitely, I think you'd appreciate it. So check it out. Cool. When it's available.
Okay, how about your 4th pick?
Ooh, interesting. Okay. So number 4 is a movie that you do not care for that much. Okay. I believe. Or I think you were okay with it. That was it. It was underwhelming. I'm going to go with Barbarian. Number 4 is Barbarian. I'm going to say it.
Well, okay.
No, we can have a discussion about it.
Let's have a discussion.
Yeah, of course. So this is directed and written, I believe, also by Zach Cregers. Stars Georgina Campbell, who is wonderful. Bill Skarsgård, who's also super talented, we all know. Justin Long, which if you are unaware of this film, me even mentioning the fact that Justin Long is in it is kind of a spoiler, which it would be nice to just go in blind entirely. You've Richard Brake in a truly horrifying performance. Yeah, I went in. This is an in contrast to the previous film, Holy Spider. This is an exploitation film. This makes me feel gross watching, and the audience that I watched with had a great time. I don't know. I just had fun, and like I don't go to the theater too much anymore, and I've had like a lot of like bad experiences somewhat recently, to the point where I'm almost just like I don't even know if I should go to the theater anymore. This is the constant battle that I have of obnoxious audiences or great audiences. This was a good one. This gave me some gas to put in the tank to go see a few more movies. I don't want to say anything about it because if you haven't seen it before, it's oddly available on Disney Plus right now. So check it out.
Disney Plus right now?
Yeah. I don't know what the deal was because they absorbed Fox. So I don't think this was this might have been in development at Fox, but then became a Disney development thing, and then I don't even know what the deal is anymore, to be honest. It's confusing, but it's very weird to see a Disney Plus logo beneath Barbarian, a movie where a lot of odd, gross things happen in it. And I love basement movies. You know this. I make basement movies. It's all basement stuff. So I'm excited to see a horror movie with a basement in it.
Like,
I think
motivations were an issue for me, and logistics were an issue for me. But those things aside, I think it's a good ride.
Yeah, it's a ride. That's a good way to put it, actually. I would agree. It's a ride, for sure.
Don't think about it too much.
Don't think about it too much, no. We can have a more spirit discussion one day if you ever want to. I'm fully open to...
Well,
go ahead.
I'd like my squad to watch it too, because
Cool.
I don't think either one of them have seen it. So that might be kind of a fun show to do. The four of us together.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
I'm sure they'll have. Well, not sure, but I bet they'll have different opinions than I do. So
yeah, and like I love talking about stuff that there are varying opinions on. That's like why we do our podcast. Is like I don't want us to have the same view of a movie. I want somebody to dislike it, and I like to talk about why it doesn't work, because that's interesting to me. I don't want us all to like, oh, we all like the same thing, but it becomes very boring very quick, Me
too. I totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think when we were talking about it over text, I was a little hard, but part of it was, who you see the film with also, I think, can color your experience of the film. And like you were saying, the audience, I saw Into the Spider-Verse twice, and one audience was great, and the second audience was insanely bad.
Yeah.
So fortunately, the insanely bad audience was the second viewing. It does affect how you might look at a film. So.
Yeah. I saw Get Out twice in theaters, and the first time I saw it like downtown Toronto, and the crowd was like wild and loving it. And it was a great time. And then the second time that I saw it was like a hoity-toity like indie theater, and the crowd was so boring, and I was like, this movie is like not enjoyable with this kind of crowd. So for sure, crowd dependent, can really affect a project.
Yeah, so I will watch it again, and let's make a date in the future. Talk about it.
Done deal. Cool.
Okay, how about your fifth pick?
All right, number 5. I don't think this is surprising at all. Just speaking of Get Out, my 5th pick is Nope. I love Nope. I will defend Nope forever. Jordan Peele, I'm like a huge fan. Everything he does is like, at the very least, exciting to me. If anybody hasn't checked this out, Daniel Kaluuya, Keke Palmer, Stephen Yeun, Brendan Pereira, Michael fucking Winsott, the guy from I remember him as a child from like Robin Hood. He plays guy of, I can't remember. Anyways, I love him a lot. And Oz Perkins plays a commercial director for a very short scene, which is also very funny. This movie is just a wonderful experience. Like a lot of people might not enjoy. Like I feel like dialogue has become like a sparse thing in film, and I'm like a huge fan of just like characters going through something via dialogue. It feels like every scene is just like wonderfully written dialogue performed by wonderfully talented people. That's filmed so wonderfully, and I don't want to say like Get Out and Us aren't good looking movies, but Nope is just like leaps and bounds aesthetically better than his previous 2 films. I'm not somebody who like gets excited about like quote unquote good looking films. I like the visuals, oddly enough, for me are like the least important thing in a movie. I'd rather just have like good audio and a good story, and everything else is inconsequential a little bit. In performances, of course, but like the visuals to me, I'm like, I could watch like a shot on a VHS camcorder film and be perfectly content. But here the visuals are just like an icing on a wonderful sundae that I'm excited to watch over and over and over again. Yeah. So number 5, Nope.
Great. Terrific.
Yes. Do you want me to just run through them as a list?
Before we do that, do you have any dishonorable mentions? I'm sort of putting you on the spot because we didn't talk about that.
Oh man, I hate this. Oh my god, I'm ready to go. I mean, there's one that initially just comes to my mind that I'm just like, detest this movie. But also, I'm going to look at my letterboxd really, really quickly to see if I have anything else that might be like a 1 star or 2 star. All right, I definitely have one. All right, I have more than I could go on. I could go on, but I'm not going to.
Yeah, as many as you want.
All right, cool. I'm going to start with the newest iteration of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Terrible story, terrible acting, weird politics that I don't understand. It seems to be both anti-gun then pro-gun, mostly pro-gun, it seems. The main character seems to learn that after surviving a school shooting, she must overcome her hurdles of guns to take it up in order to destroy Leatherface in a scene that seems ripped from Terminator 2, where she's cocking the shotgun and hitting him, and he's increasingly like falling back towards like a hole. Like, it's so dumb. This movie is absolute trash. I hate it. If anybody says they like it, it's a red flag to me. Like, I don't know. I don't mean to be rude if you enjoyed it, but man, I can go real hard on stuff that I do not like, and I really do not like this film. I feel so bad.
You did go really hard on your show about this one.
I mean, like, the person who, I don't mean to be mean, but the person playing him also looks like a chud. Like, he has like a very squat head that he looks like it doesn't seem scary to me to see like Leatherface played by this person. And I realize that might be a little mean, but it just everything about this, the performances all across the board. I felt bad for Elsie Fisher. Poor Elsie Fisher. She has to fire her agent, or if she's picking her own movies, get an agent that will funnel her into like better projects. She was in 8th grade. Now she's in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Which, by the way, when Fede Alvarez tried to defend the politics of the movie, it just made me dislike it even more, because this guy just seems like an idiot. I don't know what the deal is.
I know that name.
Well, he did the Evil Dead remake, and then he made Don't Breathe.
Yes, Don't Breathe.
Yeah.
Actually, that's where I know him from.
Yeah.
Okay.
He just doesn't seem like too bright. He's a good-looking guy, but I would qualify him as a hot dumb. I think that's how he got to where he did. He's a good-looking guy, but man, just doesn't have much going on upstairs, it seems like. Oh man! All right, what else do we have here? I hated The Sadness. It's a terrible movie from. It's a terrible movie from Thailand. It's directed, oddly enough, by some Canadian guy who lives in Thailand or something. I'm not going to look up names because this movie doesn't deserve any attention, period. It was dumped on Shudder and people love it because they like seeing gross stuff on film. But the premise is a kind of like a virus is ripping through Thailand, and where we meet two like very, very bland nothing characters, as if we're supposed to like feel anything towards them, as the wreckage of the film events are about to like smack them square in the face. Like, I literally could not care what happens. Then the movie just spends its runtime trying to like make edgy incel neckbeard violence towards like women, because everybody's just like, yeah, their urges are just like are carte blanche. They're doing whatever they want. It's obviously it's going to be sexual violence, because that's the most intelligent thing this movie has to say. And then does nothing with it. Has an incredibly downbeat ending for a character that I really cared nothing for to begin with. Just a really disappointing film. I'm surprised anybody likes it.
Yeah, I avoided this at the time because
I could not recommend it at all. But that being said, like I was talking with somebody and explaining the film, and they're like, "Oh, I kind of understand the like what it's doing. Like, maybe it's actually good." And I'm like, "Well, I mean, watch it. Like, I'm some idiot. Like, you don't have to listen to me. You can watch whatever you want."
Well,
I
think Thai horror can be very good. I mean, there are a number of really good Thai.
Yeah, this is by a white person. I believe they're a white person. Yeah.
But then again, because it takes place in Thailand doesn't make it good.
Yeah, of course. I'll talk about two things more briefly. You can cut whatever you don't like. The Reef Stalked is one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my entire life. So this is the sequel to The Reef, which is a low-budget, people being stalked by a great white shark film. This one has a character who is discombobulated because it's a very callous way of putting it, but their friend has died by their partner's hands, and it was a domestic violence situation. And so the shark is constantly used as the metaphor for the friend she's lost who died due to domestic violence. So it's always intercut between the shark and then that initial scene that opens the film. It is dumb. It doesn't know what it's trying to say. It is directed by a man, obviously. Like, it's none of it is good. The special effects are terrible. I'll watch any animal attacks movie. Like any form of earthly fauna destroying humans, I'm like 100% on board with. I will watch it into infinity and enjoy it. And this movie did not clear the low bar that I have for myself for animal attacks movies. There's a movie called Allegoria that people had liked. That's an anthology horror film that's also on Shudder that deals with the pains of being a creative, as if that is an enticing watch for anybody. I don't know. It's just a truly boring affair that, how bad it is doesn't net you any laughs, which is the worst kind of bad. Just like devoid of enjoyment. I do have some honorable mentions. Okay. Would you entertain that?
Yes, of course.
So I'll start with the only other television show that I was going to put on here, which is Under the Banner of Heaven. Huge fan. I think it's fantastic. I don't have any of the actor information here, but it's Andrew Garfield, who plays like a Mormon detective who's dealing with the murder of a woman along with her child, her newborn baby, and it spirals into a lot of like the darker regions of Mormonism that makes the central character question his faith, and it deals with something that I found off-putting a little bit, but there's recreations of historical Mormon events that seem to parallel the central character's investigation to these murders that I think are actually really, really great. And I really enjoyed this show. So Under the Banner of Heaven could have easily been on this list. Really, really like it. Obviously X and Pearl. I'm a huge Ty West fan. I could have easily put those on the list, but I think that like you guys are already talking about probably X and Pearl at some point. You won't?
No, we will. No, yeah. I don't know what to do about those for my list because I don't want to cheat and put them both on my list. But I'll probably put X because that experience was one of the most enjoyable for me this year.
I'm a huge Ty West fan. I have a VHS copy of House of the Devil behind me somewhere over yonder. I'm a huge fan. I could have put those on the list too, but I felt like you guys are probably going to talk about it already, so I might as well just do something, maybe a little different. I dragged my feet on watching this movie, but I finally watched it in January of this year. I didn't include it because it's not from this year, and we'd already talked about it on our podcast, but Another Round, I absolutely love. Thomas Vinterberg, Mads Mikkelsen, huge fan. The ending dance sequence just makes me like infinitely overjoyed. Just a happy, sad movie. I watched a movie called Sick at the TIFF Midnight Madness selection. I think it's very, very good. It's a slasher penned by Kevin Williamson of Scream fame and, all the other early aughts, late 90s slasher fame. I thought it was really, really enjoyable. Just like not reinventing the wheel, but still really enjoyable. And I want to say my single best time at the theater was watching a movie that I didn't think was that great, but I had a great time. And it was Halloween Ends. It's a terrible movie. Maybe not terrible. It's definitely, I think, the more enjoyable of the three films because of how unwieldy and bananas it becomes. But I just had a great time at the theater. That was another one where somebody literally took a shit in the theater when I saw that film.
I heard about that. Oh my god.
It was just a wild time. I don't think that's like a good thing. Like, I feel bad for anybody who has to clean it up, but it was just like such a bananas evening.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, so
definitely memorable.
Yeah, that's my most memorable watch of 2022.
Great. This is a fantastic list. I'm really looking forward to seeing the ones that I haven't seen from your list. Sully and Devin, we wanted to get your fave 5 watches from this past year. So, Sully, what do you got for us?
So my fave 5 are going to be a mix of things that came out this year and things that I've seen for the first time. My first choice, and these are in no particular order in terms of favorites. My first choice is going to be Sick of Myself, which is a Norwegian film that Devin and I saw at the Cucalores Film Festival a few weeks back. And John Waters recently put it on his top 10 films of the year, so that made me happy. It is a film where all of the characters are awful people who do awful things, and that's one of my favorite genres, is terrible people doing terrible things in a funny way. A woman who is desperate for attention and to one-up her conceptual literally thieving artist boyfriend, starts taking illegal pills, which cause her to have a terrible skin disorder and skin rash. And then she becomes a model for an agency that's trying to basically like market themselves off of non-traditional, like, disabled models. And it's very dark and very funny. And, you know, there's a line that, without spoiling it, it's, why did that nerd have to go and shoot up his entire family? And it had me rolling. And I think if a line like that gets you to, you know, roll out of your seat laughing, then it's a winner. And then following that, my next would be the Pez Outlaw, which we also saw at Cucalores, which is a really fun little documentary about a man who gets into the Pez collecting game and goes to the European Pez factory where he gets European exclusive Pez dispenser designs and then like brings them back by the duffel bag full to America and sells them to Pez collectors at like enormous prices. And it's a really fun... Devin and I both saw it, and Devin was a little put off by the constant reenactments. It does feel more like it could have been a narrative film.
There's a lot of reenactments. I really enjoyed the film, but it also kind of took me out of it a little bit to see, like, it's a documentary that in my personal opinion, I think it really straddles the line between, like, okay, how much staged stuff is happening for this to just be a narrative film. But it was a really fun, like, crowd pleasing film.
And the thing I really enjoyed about it, as someone who is a huge nerd, I think there's like one of two ways you can go with a documentary about people who are nerds. Either you can go full on sideshow, look at these people, they're spending all this money on Pez, they're these stunted, you know, man children, these sort of like infantile weirdos, let's make fun of them. Or you can go full on, oh no, they're just brilliant, misunderstood geniuses who, you know, they just really get, it's like, no, this film kind of like it's very loving, but it still allows the fact that these are eccentric people shine through. It's not mean spirited, but it still kind of embraces the quirkiness of, you know, what are basically Pez otaku. These are people who they've devoted their lives to collecting candy dispensers, and it's like these people are fun and interesting, but they're also, if you think about it, they're eccentric, and there's nothing wrong with that, but we can still kind of have some fun with the fact they've devoted their lives and have spent thousands of dollars on something that, you know, dispenses chalky candy. So that was my second pick, the Pez Outlaw. My third choice would be Nope, which Devin and I saw in the theaters, and I really enjoyed. I really can't think of anything new to say about it that hasn't already been said. I know, Devin, you described it as like a combination of the O.J. Simpson trial and The Wizard of Oz, And the Oz references were the thing that kind of got me. As
you were the one that noticed that. I didn't notice it. You had to point that out to me.
I think I'm trained as someone who loves The Wizard of Oz to notice any reference to it in any film, even the most like oblique ones possible. But I really enjoyed it. Again, there's nothing I think I can say that hasn't already been said. Anytime a Jordan Peele film comes out, it's going to be a race between critics over who can have the like most cutting analytical take on the film. But I would say go see it. It was definitely fun. It was very fun. The sound design, especially seeing it in a theater live, well, in person rather, in a cinema. And then my fourth and fifth pick are both older films I saw for the first time this year. And the first one is Arsenic and Old Lace, which I had somehow never seen as a fan of Boris Karloff, even though he's not in it. No Boris Karloff, but A Remarkable Simulation. I'd heard about the original Broadway production quite a bit, again, as someone who's a fan of Universal horror, and Karloff plays one of the main roles on the stage in the stage version, and then later Lugosi very famously played that role too. But I had never seen the film adaptation, and it takes place on Halloween, and Devin and I watched it for the holiday, and I really, really got into it. And I think it has that sort of, I love the 1940s Halloween aesthetic, that sort of like mixture of the old and the new, like the sort of, we're hitting the mid-century kind of vibes of Halloween in that time period. I think as we watch so many like movies and things that go for Halloween nostalgia, we focus so much on like the 80s and that kind of period for like Halloween nostalgia, like, and maybe the 60s a bit, like the Ben Cooper masks and stuff like that. But I really like that 40s vibe, and I showed, as kind of a response to that, I showed Devin one of my favorite movies that we watched it in November, I Married a Witch, which has a very similar vibe with Veronica Lake, and that
movie is wild. That movie was so much fun, but it was I had no idea where it was going. It takes so many weird turns.
But I feel like they're good companion pieces in a way. They're very different, but they, at their core, they both have this sort of like ghoulish, dark kind of screwball turn to them that makes it really fun. So Arsenic and Old Lace is my number 4 pick, and then my number 5 pick is Carnival of Souls, which I had somehow never seen. It has been told to me several times. Also, someone who loves the public domain. Obviously, it's one of the great public domain works. But I had never seen it. And I think it's because when it was first kind of introduced to me when I was like in high school, it was like, well, there is a haunted carnival, but it's not like very carnival-esque necessarily. And I guess I wanted more like Something Wicked This Way Comes. But watching it this year for the first time, I really loved how surreal and dreamlike it was, with the sort of droning organ score and the ghouls, and it's just beautiful to look at. It's eerie, it's beautiful, it's haunting. I feel like it's going to be one of those movies I have to watch a few more times and just keep watching it and looking at different things to fully appreciate it. I want to get the Criterion version of it now, because I just fell in love with it. And the thing that gets me is the guy who directed one of my favorite industrial shorts, Shake Hands with Danger, which I showed Devin afterwards, which is this very bonkers industrial like safety film that's full of like people getting their arms cut off and being it's just nothing but like this gore fest of this is what could go wrong, with this twangy country guitar score over it. Dun, Shake Hands with Danger.
It's very like, it's like somebody it's like the Caterpillar like construction equipment company
decided to
hired a Johnny Cash like impersonator
and decided to bankroll a gore film, but it's actually a safety film. It's it's wild. And I know the Criterion, because that's how we saw it, as you showed me your Criterion edition, has some of the guys' shorts on it, and I was like, why isn't Shake Hands with Danger on there? It's the closest spiritually, it's the closest to a horror film that the man made afterwards, but and very different from Carnival of Souls, because it's just very gonzo. But I loved watching the documentaries too, the special features about like this weird Mormon carnival they shot at, this sort of like Coney Island, but for Mormons.
Utah.
Utah. It's in Utah. They shot in Utah and Kansas. it was just it was just very fascinating. Like it's a movie that both its production and it itself just have this sort of haunting, dreamlike. It's one of those things that feels like it should not exist, but it does, and I think that's what makes it so fascinating. So that is my number 5 pick. So my picks are Sick of Myself,
Pez,
the Pez Outlaw, Nope, Arsenic and Old Lace, and Carnival of Souls.
Wow, that's a great list.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I really want to check out the first 2 that you mentioned. And is Shake Hands with Danger available like on YouTube or something?
I mean, so
I think we watched it on YouTube.
It's one of those things because it's an industrial film. Like I'm sure the Prelinger archives have it on archive.org. It's on YouTube.
Oh,
and
you showed
and
me.
Riff Tracks also did a riff of it. So like if you wanted to find like a quote unquote official source for it, I guess that's the closest thing you could do to get like an official copy of it is the Riff Tracks version you can buy on their website.
Mm-hmm.
But I've watched it unriffed and it's very funny in a dark way.
Great. Sounds great. I can't wait. Well, what about you, Devin?
So I'm going to take things in a slightly different direction because this year I did something I haven't done in a very long time. I guess in response to the increased frustrations that I've been having with streaming services, I more and more often stuff that I wanted to watch either I had to pay to rent. It wasn't on like a streaming service for free, or it just didn't exist in streaming. So many things are now caught up in rights issues or lost to the ether that more and more often I was running into movies that I wanted to watch that just were very hard to track down. And so I learned recently that Netflix still offers their DVD by mail service, unbeknownst to me. So earlier this year, I decided to sign up to get my discs shipped to me in the mail, like it's the early 2000s all over again, folks.
Yeah.
So I decided for my top 5 this year, I would go through the list of all the movies that I got through DVD.com, which is Netflix's DVD by mail website now, and pick the 5 I liked the most out of all the movies that I checked out. I think some of these are track downable. Like I said, if you're fine with spending, the $3 or $4 to rent them on like Prime or whatever, I think most of these are available in that format. There are a couple I think on here that you literally would have to either find a bootleg or a torrent file of, or just sign up for DVD.com and get the discs shipped to you. But once again, these are also in no particular order. I'm going to start with True Stories, the Talking Heads movie.
Yes.
I had never seen it before. Came out the year I was born, and it is honestly one of the most delightful movies I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It is such my wavelength as far as comedy goes, music goes, filmmaking style. It's kind of devastating that David Byrne has yet to make another film like this. Like this is his sole directorial work, and it's so good. You just get, if you're not already a fan of the Talking Heads, I don't know if this is necessarily your best introduction to them. You might want to start with the Jonathan Demme concert film Stop Making Sense, or American Utopia, the Broadway concert film that Spike Lee directed. But if you are picking up what David Byrne is putting down, run, don't walk to a screening of True Stories. It is so good. One of the earliest performances by John Goodman. He is delightful in this movie as a hopeless like bachelor trying to get lucky in love. The music is great. The Talking Heads themselves make appearances throughout the film. There's some just incredible set pieces. The final concert in the middle of like a cornfield is really cool. And it's just a wild ride. There's so many unusual twists and turns, and it's kind of way ahead of its time. Like I feel like its sense of humor doesn't feel 80s. It feels more now. I feel like we have a lot of people, like I think Tim and Eric and a lot of Adult Swim alumni are cut from the same cloth. So that was really cool getting to see an 80s version of that kind of humor.
I'm gonna download that album like right when we get off.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
The music is so good. I also want to recommend Thieves Like Us. So for those who remember from my past appearances on your show, I would promote a thing that me and my friend Atwood would do on Twitch back in 2021 called Altman or Anime, where every week we would either watch a anime feature or a Robert Altman film and talk about it on Twitch. One of the movies we had wanted to watch but never could because it just wasn't available easily was Thieves Like Us, which was kind of Robert Altman's sort of response to Bonnie and Clyde. It is based on I don't know if it's based on a true story, but I'm pretty sure it's based on a book. But it is basically imagine Bonnie and Clyde, but it's Shelley Duvall and Keith Carradine robbing banks. And it's filmed with like Robert Altman's like detached like cinema verite like camera work. All real locations. I'm pretty sure every place they filmed was real. There aren't really any sets in this movie. And I was and so unfortunately we weren't able to watch it last year, but I finally decided to track it down and get it shipped to me, and it is really good. Like it's unfortunate that it's so hard to find because it kind of deserves to be held on the same like pedestal that Nashville or McCabe and Mrs. Miller get put up on, because it's genuinely a really good Altman that not many people have seen. It's a great Shelley Duvall performance, an excellent Keith Carradine performance. The cinematography is gorgeous. All of the music is I always forget. Diegetic means it's in the world. It's not audible to just the viewer. All the music is radio broadcasts throughout the film. It's all like period specific radio broadcast music played throughout the whole film. There's also a running gag where, and this is once again predates the concept of product placement, but there is tons of references to Coca-Cola. Like everybody is drinking Coke at all times. And then finally, at the end of the film, they are Keith is trying to break one of his co-conspirators out of a jail, and he drives to the jail, and the entrance sign for the jail says like "Welcome to so and so like penitentiary," and then the Coca-Cola sign like underneath that.
Nice.
So really some fun like tongue-in-cheek humor from Robert Altman. But yeah, Thieves Like Us was really, really good. So for my third pick, I'm going to go with Blue Ruin, which is a film that I, once again, never seen before. All five of these movies are films I've never seen before, but I'd heard about. Blue Ruin, was that a
I love it.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'd only seen Green Room by that director, and I loved Green Room. But people had told me if I liked Green Room, I should really seek out Blue Ruin, and I'm glad I did, because I was really impressed with Blue Ruin. It is one of those movies. I think I love a movie that gets so much information across with very little dialogue. And it kind of reminded me, there was a movie that came out a few years ago on Amazon Prime called You Were Never Really Here with Joaquin Phoenix. And it does something very similar where it's like, okay, we're going to tell a very typical Hollywood story of like an assassin who's like double crossed or whatever, but we're going to pare down and remove as much tangential information as we possibly can and make this movie as abstract as possible, and let the audience try to figure out like, okay, like put the pieces together. Like you've seen this story before, but never in this way. And Blue Ruin kind of has that vibe where it's like, we're introduced to this character. We don't really know much about him. But he immediately goes on like a revenge spree to like track down the people that like have wronged him. But the revenge happens pretty early on in the film. And so like most of the film is him dealing with the aftermath of it and having to like deal with the people that like he's killed a bunch of people, and now he has to deal with the after effects and how that's like affecting the people that are still like close to him, like And it's also once again, the thing I love about Green Room that carried over to Blue Ruin is that the director, whose name I'm forgetting, let me look up his name really quick. Jeremy Saulner. The thing I love about his directing style, or just the way he writes characters, is these people aren't John Wick. They're not like instinctive badasses who know exactly how every gun works and how to catch every punch or whatever like that. It's like these are people with flesh and blood who like have to, there's like a period of recovery when there's any kind of violence exacted on them. Like Green Room, every bit of violence is felt and makes things that much harder for our leads. And Blue Ruin is the same way. So yeah, I was really impressed with Blue Ruin. Gorgeous movie too, beautifully shot. And then this literally is a film I just saw earlier this week, but it has stayed with me since I've watched it, and I want more people to see it. So it is called Personal Shopper. It came out in 2017. It's by Olivier Assayas, who, if people recognize that name, that is because he is the director of he did that Carlos movie a few years ago that Criterion put out. He has a lot of films on Criterion. He did Irma Vep, and that also is on Criterion, I believe. But Personal Shopper is a movie he made a few years back with Kristen Stewart, and one, she's incredible in this movie. Two, it is Christina, have you ever heard of this movie? Have you heard of Personal Shopper?
I haven't, no.
So it's kind of unclassifiable because there's elements of a lot of different genres. There's times where it could be a Hitchcockian thriller. There's times where it could be like a character drama. There's times where it could be just a straight up horror film. It kind of straddles the line between a lot of different types of movies. Kristen Stewart plays a woman who is a personal shopper for a supermodel in Paris. So basically the supermodel lady can't be really seen in public, so she hires Kristen Stewart to go and do all her shopping for her. At the same time that she's doing this job, Kristen Stewart is also dealing with her twin brother's death. Like her twin brother died of a heart condition very recently, and he was a medium. Like he can talk to spirits, or he claimed he could talk to spirits. And she, being his twin, has a lot of the same like ESP abilities, but she doesn't know how to like deal with it. She also doesn't really know if she even believes it or not. She thinks it might just be a mental health condition that she has. So she's kind of stuck in Paris working this job that she hates, while also trying to like see if she can use her abilities to contact her dead brother. And the movie, it sounds like that plot sounds ridiculous, but the director shows it in such an upfront, matter-of-fact way that you kind of buy into the logic of this film. The reality of this film is very unusual, but it's shot so well. Kristen Stewart gives such an incredible performance. And it stays with you. Like after the movie's over, you still are kind of like left thinking like, what happened? Like, what is the it also once again, I seem to, as I get older, I seem to like more and more movies that withhold information from you. This movie does that a lot. There's like a crucial scene where something very important happens. The camera like fades out right before the important thing happens, and you are not shown what exactly occurred. And you're left to kind of figure out like, hey, what exactly happened in this scene? And I kind of like stuff like that. People would call it a cop out, but I like giving the audience like a little bit of a leash and then pulling it out from under you. So Personal Shopper, I really like that one. And then finally, my number 5 is so this year, I guess in correlation with Blank Check, the Blank Check podcast covering Bob Fosse this year, I decided to watch a bunch of Bob Fosse films. And out of the ones I watched, head over heels, best film I saw by him, and probably best film I saw this year overall was All That Jazz.
Yes. Oh my God.
It was kind of incredible. And there's so much about it that blew my mind as far as like that it 1979 does not feel like a film from 1979. It is edited so tight and such an unusual way. Like the way Fosse and his editor tell this story that is ostensibly an autobiography of him, that does not show him in a flattering light at all. No. There's so much weird, like it sounds cliche to say this, but the editing feels like choreography. Like we drift from scene to scene. We see callbacks to things that happened earlier in the film. We jump ahead to things that happened later in the film. There's like moments where there's like a moment where he's like talking to like a doctor, and the doctor is talking about like, okay, you need to stop smoking, or you need to like take it back. You're doing way too much you're doing way too much. And the film will suddenly cut forward to a shot of him in the hospital and then suddenly snatch back to where we are. And you're like, what was that? Oh, okay. And also it's a musical. The musical aspect of it is really great. And because it's Bob Fosse, when there is choreography actually depicted on screen, it is gorgeous. Roy Scheider does an incredible job channeling Fosse's energy. It's kind of an amazing film. I'm not going to lie. It is, once again, I had only heard of it before. I did not know what to expect. I assumed because it was called All That Jazz, it would be about Fosse working on Chicago or something like that. But no, it is a very specific chunk of Bob Fosse's life where he was like working. He was like finishing up his movie about Lenny Bruce while also putting a show up on Broadway, and also dealing with his health issues, and also dealing with his marital troubles, and also dealing with his like harem of women he was seeing on the side. And just it's a wild ride. It's a wild ride, and I cannot recommend it more. So those are my 5 from DVD.com.
Those are great. Can you just Devin, do like Sully did and just recap those?
Yes. So my 5 that I recommended were True Stories, Thieves Like Us, Blue Ruin, Personal Shopper, and All That Jazz.
Perfect. Well, I want to thank you both so much for coming back on the podcast to let us know your fave 5s from 2022.
Yeah,
and
no problem.
Of course.
We look forward to talking to you real soon.
Thank you.
It's Martin and Boaz from episode 90. Welcome back, gents.
Hello. Great to be here again.
Great to have you again. And we were wondering what your top 5 watches are from 2022 as of today, November 27th, 2022.
Well, our top 5 watches, certainly in the movie world, are at 5, The Batman. I think one of the best Batman films since Chris Nolan, I would say. Prey, finally a great Predator film post the original. Number 3, The Northman. In my eyes, Robert Eggers Can Do No Wrong. Nope, again, a brilliant film. Jordan Peele Can Do No Wrong. And of course, Boaz's favourite film of all time is Us. And number 1 is Top Gun Maverick.
You're going to get
us like...
And number 1 is Top Gun Maverick. I just think, Tom Cruise is an absolute loony for trying to make this film and make it so good, going up in fast jets for real is insane. And it's the better for it, it looks incredible and just a great story to boot as well. I love that film.
Yeah, it was good.
I haven't seen your entire list. Quinn told me that she really enjoyed Top Gun Maverick.
anything you want to say about that one, Quinn?
So, I mean, I don't know if you've ever listened to Winisodes. I am a very big Tom Cruise fan. You know, I go along with him on whatever he does, even though I find him to be a nut. And maybe a dangerous nut sometimes as well with the Scientology. But when I found out that they were doing this, it got delayed, and I sort of like really lost interest in the whole thing. But then I saw it, and I was moved to pieces. I loved it. Oh my gosh, it was so much fun. And man, is he good? Just Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise. I
so
want to hate him,
dreamy.
but I love him so much.
I know that Quinn and Mac and I all really enjoyed The Northman. Mac, did you want to say anything about that one?
About The Northman?
Yeah.
I thought I also believe that Willem Dafoe can do no wrong. I know he didn't have like a huge role in that movie, but any chance to see him is one I'll take. I do think that Nicole Kidman, that was a movie where maybe it cemented my belief that that I don't like her very much. Just whenever I see somebody in a period film with very obvious plastic surgery, it's all I can think about. It's one of those things that gets me so good, where I'm like, ugh, how do you look like that?
Yes, and her character in that film is just an awful human being as well. It's just like, oh my god,
yeah,
please die.
I do love the character.
Man,
I love evil women, so.
Our girl Anya's in that one too, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Again, amazing.
Amazing.
Can do no wrong.
Now I want her to do wrong. I want her to be in like something, but I don't think she can. You know. Boaz, did you have anything you wanted to add to the list, or a terrible movie that you wanted to tell people to avoid at all costs?
Oh my god, a terrible movie.
Us, I suppose. You know.
Oh no!
I don't hate. You keep bringing this up. I don't hate the film. I just thought it was like, it was alright.
I'm just giving you suggestions.
It was okay, But you just keep going, oh man, it's so great. I was like, I don't see it. It was it was alright. Wasn't that great?
So, welcome to the show, John and Georgia from Comfort Films Podcast.
Hello, Christina and Mac. Thank you guys for bringing us in to give you our top 5 of 2022 so far. Today is December 11th, so I believe there will be a few shakeups to our list between now and the end of the year. But for now, from 5 to 1, our top 5 of the year are actually very horror heavy this year.
Yeah.
Okay.
So our number 5 is...
Dun, dun, dun. Bodies. We really like that one. We just saw it this past week. It was one that was on our list. We missed it in the theaters, and we kept wanting to see it in the theaters, and then it was gone. So we finally saw it. That was a really nice surprise. Much different than anything that I expected. I had no idea what we were going to do coming into this.
Yeah, but we really loved the preview. It was hilarious, and the movie actually, lived up to it. So we were psyched about that.
Yeah, and I thought the actors were fantastic. Pete Davidson, perfect.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was very like Gen Z horror, and it was pretty great. We loved it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, number 4 we have is actually a tie. A little bit of a cheat, sorry. But the movies are related, and again, it's horror, and that would be March's, I believe it came out in March, X, and Pearl, which just came out a couple months ago. These two movies together are like a showcase of the fact that Mia Goth is awesome. So
love her.
Yeah, we adored both of these films. I think I would probably give the edge to X for me personally. because like the 70s kind of grindhouse look that it has
Mhm.
really cool. But Pearl really surprised me with also being, you know, this Technicolor, you know, axe murder movie that was awesome. So we really enjoyed that as well.
Yeah, I mean, being a goth, I mean, in Pearl, God, it's so hard with these two. Like, I love X. I think X is the one that is a movie I enjoy a little bit more. But Pearl, the performance from Mia Goth, just those really long takes of these monologues and these reactions that go into the credits. She's still going. I'm like,
Oh man.
where do you have that energy? Like, I am so impressed.
Yeah, we usually agree on things pretty well, but
Yeah.
I think between X and Pearl was kind of our biggest argument of which one we like better.
It's hard. Well, it's just, again,
It's hard.
yeah.
It's what are you focused on, like the style or, you know, the performance. But anyway, both were great.
Yeah.
And really, I don't know, they also are inextricably linked together. So I think you kind of have to put them on
Agreed.
the list as one. Our number 3 is also a horror movie, a satire horror movie that we also just saw recently, The Menu. Great fun.
Want to see that.
And Anya Taylor-Joy, it is amazing.
Yeah.
Ever since I had seen the preview for it the first time, I really wanted to see it because Ralph Fiennes and Anya Taylor-Joy are always great in everything. And I also tend to really like cooking shows and foodie stuff. So it was kind of a send up of that, and also a satire that attacks rich people, which I always love. It did not let me down either. I highly recommend it. I don't want to say too much about it because it is a newer movie and probably a lot of people haven't gotten into it yet, but couldn't recommend it more. It's amazing. Some of the people who are involved in the show Succession were involved in this. So,
I gotta
sold.
see it.
so if you love Succession, you're gonna love it. It's just great, and there's some really good performances even besides Anya Taylor-Joy and Ralph Fiennes. Nicholas Hoult and John Leguizamo are amazing in it as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard when we talk about The Menu because I just want to spoiler it so bad. Like, I just want to. I won't. But it's just so hard.
No, because
there's so many things to point out in it. That was a really nice surprise. I didn't even know what it was. I thought it was a movie like Big Night that was just about like chefs and you know, like a fun kind of comedy, lighthearted thing. I had no idea what it was.
No, you didn't. And
None.
I was just like, you don't get it. You really want to promise, you know?
Yeah.
But I didn't want to spoil anything for you either. So.
Well, the one thing I can say, because this doesn't give anything away.
Okay.
John Leguizamo based his performance on Steven Seagal.
Yeah.
Everything you're saying, I gotta see this movie.
It's wonderful. Yeah, I loved it.
Highly recommended. You guys will really love it.
Mm-hmm.
Our number 2 is another horror movie.
Sure.
Nope.
Yeah.
Jordan Peele really kind of outdid himself on this one to us. We both really like Lovecraftian type horror and like, you know, scary sky monsters. In particular, this movie really was like serendipitous for me because I had just read this book called The Wide Carnivorous Sky by John Langan, which I recommend. It's like a collection of short stories, one of which has a scary sky monster in it. So I saw this like right after that. And it's just such a great movie, and the performances are great. Keke Palmer, Daniel Kaluuya,
Michael Wincott. You can't forget Michael
Wincott. Yeah, and Stephen Yeun.
Oh, so, yes.
Yeah, like so many people are great in this movie, and it just has like that little extra something. Like the production design is great. You just really felt like you're watching like a cool movie when you see this one.
And you had Keith David, who never disappoints.
So he never misses.
No, it was great. I mean, what I like so much about Nope is how much we spent with just, you know, Keke Palmer and, you know, her brother. I mean, that was just like so much. I mean, it was just, there was so much in the story.
Yeah, because there's like this family angle, and there's also, you know, this bizarre horror angle that, you know, I don't think many people would have gone for.
No.
Which I really enjoy. And the creature is weird. It's like one of the weirdest
Very
things
weird, yeah.
It's like a evil kite or something. So I think we both really love that one.
And we love the electronics store that's featured
Oh God,
in it.
yes.
Because
That's true.
Right? We had Fry's Electronics, which was a chain out here. And the one that they shot at was right near us in Burbank.
So,
It just recently closed down. So, it used to be like this great store. You get all these discounts, you get all this fun stuff. And they had these different themes in the stores.
Yeah, and this particular one really does have like this crashed UFO at the front door and like all of these setups from like sci-fi 50s horror movies inside
That's
the
so
store.
cool.
Yeah, like a Jeep with like military guys shooting at this crazy like octopus creature in the ceiling. Yeah, really, really neat details. So it really...
It was like fun. It was nostalgia for us because the store just closed.
Yeah.
During COVID permanently, which is a bummer. But we, got to see it, on the big screen.
Yeah.
And it was great.
Well, I like to see the family things, and I like to see something where we can actually have a really engaging story with just few characters.
Yes.
And a lot of it was, 2 or 3 characters just talking.
Yes, this is true.
And it was good.
And the family angle leads us into our number 1 pick of the year.
Oh, yeah.
Which I don't think is going to change no matter what happens, because this is one of my favorite movies of all time ever, permanently.
Yeah.
Everything, Everywhere, All at Once.
Yes.
Great. Great choice.
I could not love this movie more. It's probably in my permanent top 3 of all time. There's so many reasons to love it. The fact that it's like this really sweet, emotional family story wrapped in like a martial arts multiverse sci-fi philosophy movie. I mean, you can't say, you could just keep talking and adding more adjectives to what this movie is about. But like the return of Ke Huy Quan, Michelle Yeoh, Stephanie Hsu is amazing. And we had like a really wonderful personal experience with this movie where we went to see it. We live in LA, so we're very fortunate that we sometimes get to see early release type things. And when this had first come out in March, it was at like very limited number of theaters. And we were trying to find one to see it at and kind of missed our opportunity to see like one at 5:00 and found that there were 2 tickets left for 7:00. Well, we said, well, we'll go get something to eat and we'll go to this. We watched the movie. I was completely destroyed by how awesome it was. And as the credits are rolling, all the people who work in the theater like start setting up chairs and stuff at the front. And we're like, what's going on? The girl next to us goes, what do you mean? You didn't know there's a Q&A? Ke Quan and Stephanie Hsu were there.
What?
And did a Q&A. Michelle Yeoh like had COVID at the time, so she wasn't there. But Ke Quan and Stephanie Hsu were there. They talked about the movie. They just answered all these questions. It was like a mind-blowing experience.
Wow.
Corey Feldman was actually in the audience supporting Ke Quan.
Yeah.
So we like basically were like dying at the of what happened. So that's our little personal story with it. But, even if I just saw this like on television, I never saw it at the theater or something, I still would love it. I just think it's pretty much a perfect movie, and I just was really thankful to see something like this year.
I like that a lot, and I really like seeing Jamie Lee Curtis doing something entirely different.
Oh yeah.
Yes,
that was just such a good character.
Yeah,
and
she was awesome. She just 100% went for it. The martial arts stuff was awesome. I love martial arts movies anyway, and like Michelle Yeoh is so amazing. So I don't know. It was just awesome. And I love weird philosophy stuff too. And I love everything bagels. So
what's not to love?
Yeah, exactly. Just perfection beginning to end.
How do you feel about hot dog fingers?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I forgot about that between the first time we saw it and the second time, and it just made me laugh so hard again when it and they were like, have them. Oh, it's just so creative. And I feel like we don't see that kind of creativity always in movies because people are, trying to turn a buck, especially right now because people haven't been going to the movies as much. People are just trying to do something that's going to get butts and seats. And for this movie to just be like, I don't really care if you get it, or if you know, we're going to make a movie that's super creative and fun and wild, and just, you know, it reminds me why I like movies. So that's why I think that was our number one pick for the year.
Yeah. I mean, I've never seen an action scene where a fanny pack became a weapon. You know, that was like
deployed so successfully.
Yeah. Like that was a turning point. Like an IRS agent turned out to be this really interesting layered character.
Yeah,
I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, just the random butt plugs.
Yeah.
Amazing.
The fact that when they show that, you know exactly what's going to ensue.
You see it like on her desk, and then you're like, that's going to be in somebody's butt later.
Yeah. That looks like...
Yeah.
I just, like doing taxes. Like doing taxes is an adventure. You know, receipts. Like I never thought it would be that good, but
and the googly eyes.
The rocks. That's my favorite.
Yeah, that scene killed me.
Killed me.
Yeah,
we saw it together, Mac and I, and I was destroyed.
Just sobbing.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great pick. Great list, y'all.
Solid list.
Kudos. That's great.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, it was such a big year for horror.
It was.
Mm-hmm.
I think, I mean, we do, you know, comfort movies at Comfort Films Podcast. So unfortunately, we don't really get to do horror that much, even though we adore it. You know, usually when we guest on other people's shows, you know, like when we were on Film versus Film, we talked about The Shining because that's our chance, you know, and then in October, we're always like squishing in as many horror movies as we can. We did like, I don't know, 6 movies instead of 4 this year with John Carpenter. So, you know, we're always trying to do as much as we can. But this year, horror just really went like mainstream. And some of the most creative, most exciting, most original movies this year were horror movies.
Well, and Men, that was like a runner-up for us.
Yeah.
You know, because we also really
it was a really weird movie.
It was
great.
That movie, like, George and I talked about it when we got out. We're like, okay, this was this and this was this. And like all of it kind of, we were able to track it until we got to the very end, which I don't want to ruin for anybody. But, you know, it was...
Men is an amazing and weird movie.
Yeah, it really gets you
Almost
thinking.
Made it on the list, but I think it was just like not quite there compared to the others.
It's the conclusion. It's like, I didn't get it. Like, maybe I need to watch it more, but it was good.
I don't know if I want to watch it more. It's a really disturbing. It's great and disturbing at the same time.
It was terrifying. I never thought that, you know, Rory, what's his last name?
Kinnear.
Yeah, I never thought Rory Kinnear would be so terrifying. Like, he just looks like this nice man. You know, we know him from like James Bond, but we also know him from Black Mirror.
I was going to say his Black Mirror episode.
Oh, man. I that's a whole other story. But I mean, when we were watching Black Mirror, I was like, no.
Yeah.
And then, oh my God.
Yeah. Then
Well, can I put you guys on the spot and ask you if you have a dishonorable mention or something that you would like to tell people to stay away from?
Oh my gosh,
something that you
really
watched
hard.
This year. It was hard for me too, by the way. I watched so many great movies this year.
I don't know. I don't think there was anything that we watched that I recall immediately was just something where we were like, because, you know, there have been times where we've left the theater before because we're just like, no, I can't do that. But it's funny, we didn't go to that many movies this year. And a lot of the stuff we watched was old stuff that was podcast related.
When we watch something bad, we kind of, most of the time we intentionally do it. Like, we like to watch things like, you know, we're like big Mystery Science Theater people, so we really enjoy that.
Yeah.
And then sometimes we'll just jump in with something if it's just like old and crazy, like the Incredible Two-Headed Transplant or, you know, Psychotronic Man.
Oh, yeah.
These are the kind of things that we'll go crazy.
Samurai Cop.
Oh, my God, Samurai Cop. We love that. Happy Hell Night. That's like this.
That's how we met. Really, was talking about a bad movie that nobody in the world except the two of us had seen.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean,
Yeah, see?
That's so sweet.
but yeah, also, you know, I think because John is an actor and he, you know, doesn't, he knows how much work it takes to make a movie. So even if a movie is bad, I think we end up kind of talking ourselves into liking something about it anyway, because we just know how much effort people put into it. And also, we don't want to like crap on something and then John gets an audition for that person. And I'm like, oops, I guess I just crapped all over your movie on, you know, another person's podcast. But, you know, even
Great.
That's so nice.
You know,
I'm so negative.
Here's one that's lousy, and I can say this with full confidence. Was it this year or last year? Cats. We watched Cats.
Oh.
And, you know, we tried to
I
watch
think that was
that.
maybe last year, but
Oh my God.
No one will argue with you.
That was horrible. Like, we put it on.
I mean, the play, the Broadway show is.
Now, hold on. Be careful, because I'm a big fan of... See, I hated the movie A Little Bit Special because I love the musical and I saw it like live. But so then when I saw it, I was like, this is bastardized. Like, what is this filth?
I have never seen the Broadway show, but I just like, I guess for me, it's just the idea of, you know, these people dressed as cats. Where, you know, the Broadway musical, the costumes are always kind of fun and like, you know, it's not trying to look like a cat. They were like working a little too hard to make people look like actual cats in this movie. And I do feel bad for how much effort and money and all the stuff that they must have pumped into this film, but it is a hard movie to watch.
Yeah.
It is wild to like imagine them sitting at like the table and being like, yep. Release it. It's good.
And you know, like they have good actors like Ian McKellen,
Yeah.
Judi Dench. Like they made a Macbeth with Trevor Nunn in the 70s. It's like the ultimate Macbeth to me. And I'm watching them, you know, licking themselves and singing. Like, boy, things went real wrong here.
Yeah, I just feel like, you know, as soon as they yelled cut, like everybody just started passing around a bottle. You know what I mean? Gearing up for the next scene. Like, I mean, it's, you know, that one, I seriously hated it so much. And it's so rare for me to be like this, just angry at something.
That's not normal for you.
I wanted to jump out a window. We were watching it actually with the riff tracks, laugh track, okay? And so,
we're watching it with like a joke track.
Right. So we're watching it with a joke track. And I think where the real problem came in is I had to buy this movie. And so it's like I had the movie in my hands that I paid our money for. I paid for this. And like, I just, you know, if it was on TV, I still would have hated it. But the fact I searched it out and I thought, hey, you know, we'll watch this and we'll watch it with riff tracks. Those guys are funny, and they're hilarious. But they could not save us from the poison.
I mean,
of this film. It is poison, man.
They couldn't even like muster up the enjoyment that they usually do. I mean, just the amount of times the word jellicle was said.
Oh,
like
no.
I just never can hear it.
I can't hear it ever.
So you're not going to get a call from Tom Hooper now. I'm sorry.
It's done. It's done. I mean, you know, my dancing career was legendary, but you know, it's all over now. Maybe I could have put like Garfield in a cameo. You know what I mean? Like, that would have been the big scene. I don't know, but yeah, that's the only thing that comes to mind that I've seen lately that I just want to set on fire. Yeah.
But, you know, this year I felt like not too many movies came out this year, but it could just be that we were busy. It's been a weird year. But...
Yeah, well, we usually go a lot, and we like to go whenever we can. But just in terms of, you know, just our regular schedule, the things we do, our time has been so much more limited.
Yeah, well, and I just don't think as many movies have been coming out. Like, and for that reason, I think whenever we do see one, it feels like an event. But hopefully, you know, more movies are going to start to come out now that, you know, people can make them again.
Yeah.
And we'll have a lot more to pick from next year. But even with that said, the 5 we picked, or around 6 because we cheated, are really great.
Well,
and I was happy we got to see them this year.
Well, and we also, another honorable mention we had was the Nicolas Cage movie.
Oh, yeah.
The Unbearable Weight of Talent. You know,
The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
Thank you. Yes. And that was hilarious.
It was very funny.
We liked it.
I actually thought that was going to be one that you watch just to laugh at how crap it is, but they surprised me by being hilarious.
Well, there were like only 3 people in the theater. There was Georgia and I, and then there was one guy like 8 rows down. And he was really having a good time. And so it was like, we felt like free, because sometimes like I have a big laugh, you know, I like to stifle it a little. And with this, we just went for it. So it was like a really great night.
Yeah, that one was good. I mean, I don't know. We had trouble narrowing down to 5. We have like a pretty hefty list of almost made it.
The Batman, that was right there. It's right there.
Thor: Love and Thunder for me. I know that many people disagree, but just for the soundtrack alone, that they had Guns N' Roses songs from Appetite, and that they ended with a Dio song, I was like, "What? Are you kidding me?" So, I mean, we were in the theater like,
yeah.
So that was great. So yeah.
And we just discovered Dio.
Yeah,
this year of our life.
Yeah.
We didn't know about Dio.
So we did, but we didn't like really know.
We didn't know. Like did you know any Dio songs for this year? Could you name one?
No.
Me neither. Yeah.
But yeah, the fact that we saw this and then that song came on at the end, like right in that perfect time.
Yeah.
It just all fit with our life.
So good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Turning Red.
Turning Red. We like Turning Red.
Oh God, I love that movie.
Yeah.
Talk about sobbing. I saw that I was watching. I illegally downloaded it, and I was looking at it on my computer, just alone in my room, like just like so much childhood things like coming up.
I loved it too. Like I had no expectations when I went to watch it. I had heard a few things, and you know, it was like, oh, it's about a girl who's kind of like nerdy or whatever. I'm like, all right, well, that sounds relatable. So I watched it and I just thought it was the sweetest, cutest little thing. Yeah. I really liked it.
It was fun.
I'm so glad movies like that are around for kids now.
Yes.
Me too.
Oh my God, for real.
Yeah. Like that one in the brain that came out a couple of years ago, Mac, help me.
Inside Out.
Yeah.
Oh, that was good.
That's amazing. Like that
one in the brain.
Mac knows my language. So. Yeah, I mean, I think that's amazing that that's available for kids, you know, so. Well, I just want to thank you guys so much for taking the time to come on and give us your picks. They're excellent. And if people want to check out your podcast, where can they find you?
We are pretty much everywhere that you can listen to a podcast. Just look up Comfort Films Podcast on Apple or Spotify or Google or anywhere, pretty much.
Go to the website, comfortfilmspodcast.com.
Yep. And you can also check us out on Instagram. I'm slightly doing tweets now, even though I'm very old and I don't really know what's going on with them. We have, you know, a Facebook site that's very sad and weird.
We have a TikTok that's abysmal. Like, yeah. I mean, there's like 2 videos and I didn't even frame the thumbnails right. So you just go on there and shake your head. I think that's what most do. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I got to say, your Instagram is killing it. I mean, it is really entertaining, and you guys have like questions and surveys and all kinds of stuff, and really a great follow.
Yeah, that's all John. He runs it pretty much exclusively, and you know, maybe I have input just saying, yeah, that sounds good, but mostly it's this guy, and it is really fun. I've had a lot of people compliment your work on that site. So we love to connect with people there, and just, you know, we don't really know that many people who go as hard on movies as we do. So like in real life.
Yeah.
So we depend on, you know, our Instagram and social media interactions and talking to other podcasters to get our fix of movie love.
Yeah, it's fun to play with people that like movies. And that's the big thing with the Instagram pages. We get to do that, you know? It gives us that chance.
Yeah.
You know, which is really fun.
But we're super psyched that you asked us to come on. So we love your Instagram page as well. And we've listened to you guys some. And love talking to you, seeing your faces.
Yeah, it was nice.
This is lovely.
It's an audio podcast, but we like to see our guests. So thanks so much.
Do. It's good that way.
Yeah, because when you go on and you're talking to like someone in the dark
in a black square.
Yeah,
it's a little weird. Yeah,
it feels like a CIA interrogation. Like you're like, oh, all right, you know. I don't know. It gets super awkward then. Yeah, like I just start looking at us, you know, and I don't know.
That's like every Zoom call. You're looking at yourself. Like, oh, what do I look like?
That's the vain actor. Yeah.
No, it's everyone.
It's everybody.
All right,
it's not just you. You always think it's just you. It's never just you. I promise.
Thank you, Georgia. Well, that feels good.
We really appreciate this, and I'm sorry we hijacked like way more than a few minutes of your show.
Oh no, it's perfect.
Lovely.